All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak, Wadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And as you can see in the title, get ready to use everything you've learned. Now, this was something that came to mind. I was watching the live stream that was done by um, the elder apostle Ramlab earlier this morning. And at some point during the stream, he mentioned something along the lines of, in the time of Jacob's trouble, okay, in the time of tribulation, we're going to have to um, basically use the things that we've learned, the knowledge, wisdom, all of these things. And I jotted it down because I think that this is a very important point to highlight. Okay, that you have a lot of individuals today, like we'll say, you may have you have certain videos that you do, and they may get maybe 1,000 views, maybe 5,000, maybe it may go viral X, Y, and Z. But in most cases, the majority of those viewing it are not viewing it for edification per se. Most of them are viewing it for entertainment, and that explains why when you title your video something that's dramatic, or the thumbnail is eye catching, you have a lot more views than if you were to do a regular video, breaking down scriptures. The thumbnail is like the blue letter page, something like that, where you would get less views. And what's unfortunate for those that just watch for entertainment is that when the time of trouble comes, when you need to then um, draw and use the things that you have learned, you'll find yourself in a hard situation because you would be likened onto one of the foolish virgins that took no oil in your lamps. Okay, so you're going to find yourself in a difficult situation because you're not going to know how to behave. You're not going to know how to act. You're going to be lacking in the faith. You're going to be lacking in the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the Heavenly Father because you spent your time either being a zombie or watching for entertainment. You didn't learn the breakdowns, you didn't learn the scriptures, you didn't build up your faith. Okay, you didn't get involved, you didn't develop the connection with Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. All of these things you learn when the Lord wakes you up. When as you're listening to these lessons, you learn. You learn to start praying if you weren't praying before. You learn to pray to the true and correct names. You learn to decipher things in your everyday to day life, and how to be aware of the Lord's intervention in your life. When you pray and the Lord answers your prayers, you recognize it. When something might not be going your way, and you really want it to happen, then you stop and you think spiritually. You analyze the situation, and then you think, maybe let me slow down a bit. Maybe there's a reason why this is happening. All of these things you start to pick up, and it becomes a part of you. It becomes second nature, and ultimately you're able to think and make decisions in the spirit. You're able to develop an instinct for it. Okay, you're able to discern spirits. All of these things you learn, okay, and you pick up, and they're all going to come in very handy during the time of Jacob's trouble, during the time when all hell is breaking loose. A lot of people are going to be in a position of lacking stability, of lacking the knowledge, but we're going to have to use everything that we've learned. And in all the examples I just mentioned, each instance grows your faith a little bit more. And you may not see it because it's incremental, but maybe in a small sense. But when the time comes when you need to now use that faith that you've been building, right? That, as a matter of fact, a precept just came to mind. Let's see if I can find it. Faith. Oh, wow. Maybe it's in the Apocrypha. All right, let's take a look. There we go. Yep, let's get this real quick. Second Ezra chapter 6, and verse, I believe it was 25. But yeah, let's read up. Man, oh, beautiful. I just lost it. Okay, let's try to find it again. 6 and 5, not 25. Okay. Second Ezra chapter 6, verse 5. It says, and ere the present years were sought out, or and or ever the inventions of them now of them that now sin were turned, before they were sealed, that have gathered faith for a treasure. So there are individuals that are sealed, and these individuals have gathered, okay, faith for a treasure. And we are in that gap, like we're gathering that now, because prior to the Lord, waking you up, when you were in the world, you might have faith, but you weren't exercising the level of faith that you are now, and having it directed in the right place to Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. You see? So now when you finally wake up, that's when you start to exercise that faith and gather it and grow it. And you'll notice that over time you're able to receive things, you're able to understand, have a deeper understanding of the scriptures, and your life changes. You start to actually grow and mature. Okay. So in a way, it's kind of like training. Because when the time of trouble comes, when all hell breaks loose, you're gonna need to be able to have this correct mindset. You're gonna need this. This is a part of let's go there real quick to the book of Isaiah 33 and 6. It says, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and more so heavily during the times of chaos, of the times of instability. Now, where is that wisdom and knowledge going to come from? And when are you going to acquire that? You have people today that instead of properly using this grace period, this time the Lord has blessed us, where the ministry is out, the word is going out free, in abundance. I mean, you can learn, man. The scriptures tell you about the value of wisdom, right? So you can learn and learn and learn without ceasing. Okay. Meaning, you can continuously learn and build upon it and gain this wisdom for free. This is the time where you gather it, because this is the time when you're not going to get a chance like this again. And if you're not prepared when that time comes, you can think back upon some previous experiences, and to boost up your faith. And if you're not well versed in the scriptures, that's not going to help you either, because being able to, matter of fact, let's go there real quick. Romans 15 and 4, for whatsoever things were written aforetime, meaning the things that were written in the past, right, were written for our learning, us that are in the future. And an example of that is Second Ezra's, the 14th chapter. This is what Ezra said. Let's see. All right, this is the book of Second Ezra, chapter 14 and 19. It says, then answered I, behold, before thee, and said, behold, Lord, I will go as thou hast commanded me, and reprove the people which are present. But they that shall be born afterward, meaning in the future, who shall admonish them? So Ezra is saying, look, I can go and reprove those that are here now, but what happens after I'm dead? What happens after this generation passes? Those that come after, who's going to be there to correct them? Thus the world is set in darkness, and they that dwell therein are without light. For thy law is burnt, because at this time, remember, the Babylonians had besieged Jerusalem, and they destroyed the wall, and they burnt the temple, X, Y, and Z. And then in the temple contained the writings, the scrolls, the law, X, Y, all of that. So they took the golden vessels and all of those, and the rest they burnt with the help of the Edomites. So Ezra is saying, well, I'm here. I know these things. And so I can be a reprover to thy people, but when I'm gone, your law is burnt. Who's gonna be there to correct them? What guidelines are they gonna have to follow? So it says, therefore, no man knoweth the things that are done of thee, or the work that shall begin. Because remember, the scriptures don't contain just the laws; they contain accounts of what the Lord has done. You can read books like Ecclesiastic is the second chapter, right? That go into there's a verse in it that says, "Look at the generations of old, and see, did ever any that trusted in the Lord," right? As I'm saying it, let's go there real quick. Sirach chapter 2, and I'm just gonna find that verse. Here we go, verse 10. Let me start at 9. It says, "Ye that fear the Lord hope for good, and for everlasting joy and mercy. Look at the generations of old, and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him?" But now here's the question: how do you look at the generations of old? You're in the future, right? You're in your time now. The generations of old came before you. So how do you look into that time? You don't have a time machine. This goes back to Romans 15:4. That's why records are kept. That's why accounts were written and stored so that we would be able to make reference. This is how we look at the generations of old, by reading about it. So reading about the records of a time in the past is almost like giving you a little, glimpse into the past. It's almost like taking you to the past with them, even though you weren't your present self wasn't actually there, right? So let's go back to Second Ezra chapter 14, verse 22. "But if I have found grace before thee, send the Holy Spirit into me, and I shall write all that hath been done in the world since the beginning, which were written in thy law, that men may find thy path, and that they which will live in the latter days may live." See, so Ezra was not just concerned about his present time; he was concerned about those that would come after. What records? I mean, what guidelines would they have? Everything is destroyed now, and those of us that have it in our minds now, we're gonna die. And when we die, I'm speaking in terms of in Ezra's time, right? And when we die, who is gonna pass these things down? See, so in a sense, books are kind of like an immortal memory, right? That you can keep passing on down. But going back to Romans 15:4, as it says, "Whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning." And one example is what we just went through in 2nd Ezra 14. So it was written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might what? Have hope. So in the time of Jacob's trouble, when all hell is breaking loose, when you may be by yourself, when you may not have a physical Bible with you, you may not have anybody else around you, or maybe you may be in a FEMA camp, or you may be in the streets somewhere and you don't recognize the police and you're in hiding in an abandoned building or wherever it is. All the panic has maybe died down or is still going, or you may be around a bunch of unbelievers. But in that time, being able to make reference like Judas did, right? Not Judas Iscariot, but Judas Maccabees. How was it that after fasting, okay, on the verge of being weak, being tired and hungry, and here it is, you have to go and battle this huge army, and yet they were able to muster up the strength because Judas made recollection. Not only did he pray, but he made reference to the times in the past to boost up the spirits of those that were in the present, to say, hey, look at what the Lord did for those in the past, for our forefathers, because they had the same energy and drive and spirit that we have now. So if the Lord did it for them then, would he not do it for us now? Is not the Lord in charge? Is he not the one that delivers from death, that gives you the victory? How do you know that? It's all in the scriptures. So you know these things, and knowing these things gives you the courage and the faith and the comfort to keep going, knowing that Elijah, ran because he was afraid that he would be put to death by Ahab and Jezebel, and yet the Lord fed him during the famine by having ravens bring him meat, and he was by a brook so he could get water from there. And when the water dried up, the Lord sent him to the widow woman, to where, her last few ingredients, the Lord had it, something that should have been worth only one day, it was able to last them throughout more than a day. Being able to know that and make reference back to that will keep you stable when there's a famine, for example, right? Or the fact that the Lord was able to, feed the multitude with just, a few loaves of bread and fish, or how he made it rain manna from heaven when there was no food around, or how, through the power, or through the vessel of Moses and Aaron, he caused water to come out of a rock. So all of these things the Lord did. When you know of these accounts and you can remember them and say, hey, they were in some pretty bad situations and the Lord performed miracles for them. And this is the same God that I serve and I worship now. So let me calm down. There's a famine and I'm hungry, but they were hungry too. And the Lord fed them. So let me wait a little bit longer, because the Lord will feed me too if I keep the same energy. This is an example of how, or why it's so important to understand and study and build your faith. Because now it's really going to be beneficial to you when you know that these things happened, but at the same time you believe that they actually happened. You can read of what happened with Moses and what happened with Samuel and what happened with Elijah and all of these things. But if you don't believe they actually happened, they're not going to benefit you. If you have doubt that these things happened, then when you remember them, it's not going to boost your faith, because you're going to think, well, did it actually happen? What if it didn't happen? If it didn't happen, then I'm just believing in nothing and I'm just going to die. But if you know these things happened and you have faith that they happened, they will keep you stable. When you find yourself in a FEMA camp, you can remember the account of how the Lord sent an angel to deliver the apostle Peter while he was in what they would call not solitary confinement, but he was basically confined, chained between two guards, right? He was chained between two guards, and still an angel managed to break him out of that. And when you think about that, you're like, well, the Lord could do that for me. Or even if I have to die, well, think about Stephen. Stephen had to die, but he wasn't crying and losing his mind and all that. So all these accounts that are written in the past are written for our learning. Okay. And they will be even more beneficial and more comforting and more they would enhance your faith more and keep your hope alive, especially in the times to come, when things get very dire, when people get very desperate. Okay, when you're afraid, when you're unsure, when demons try to creep in, when you're the only one there that has faith. How do you keep that fire burning? How do you keep that candle going? The logs to keep the fire going are the things that you've learned, the things that you've been taught. And that's why it's so important. That's why I titled the lesson that, because knowing these things that you've been taught, the breakdowns, understanding the scriptures, understanding who the Most High is, how does he operate? What do you have to do to please him? Who can you pray to? How do you pray to the Lord? Knowing some Hebrew, all of these things are going to come in handy. Praying in Hebrew is more powerful than in English. So knowing some Hebrew prayers, some Hebrew words, building that connection with the Lord, of having served him. So he knows who you are. He's familiar with you. He's delivered you even in these times. So it's not a strange thing to call upon the Lord when all hell is breaking loose. And I can't stress the importance of how valuable being able to do that is going to be. But now, if you didn't learn anything during this time because you watch videos for entertainment, or you take things as a joke, or you're scoffing all the time, or you're following a group that's not teaching you the correct truth, so you're not building faith, you're not praying to the Lord in his true names, you're taking everything as a joke, or you're looking at the truth as an avenue for money or popularity, When the time of Jacob's trouble comes and all of those things vanish because they're all vain, what do you have left? Nothing. You're just going to be a ninja with a garment on. If you have a garment on. And what's going to hold you? Did the Lord not say, heaven and earth shall pass, but his word is not going to pass? So what are you going to have left at the end of the day? If you're in this truth for money, money is going to perish. When all hell breaks loose and people are actually burning physical paper money, you're going to realize how worthless it was. If that's what you gained in this time, then when it goes away, you have nothing left. If you were in it for status or popularity or whatever, all of those things, remember, the scriptures say riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivereth from death. So if you weren't focused on learning how to walk in the spirit, stay in the spirit, be righteous, which is going to help you in the times to come, then there's nothing that you can utilize then. And you can't go back then and try to learn these things or try to build a connection with the Lord. Then it'll be too late for you. So we're coming into the times when you're going to need to be able to use the experiences, the things you've learned, the faith that you've built up, the understanding that you've developed, that you've grown in, that you've been blessed with, all of that together to get through the hard times that are coming ahead. And if you're not able to do that, then may the Lord have mercy on your soul. Right. Let's see. So let me read this again. Isaiah 33:6. And it reads, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. Hence, take an example of the three holy children, right? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which were their Babylonian names. Guess what? When they were thrown into the fire, they weren't bugging out. They were stable because they knew the God that they served, just like we know the God that we serve. So it is very important that you do what you got to do. You build that fear. You build that, that fear of the Lord, that faith in the Lord, that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. I mean, use your time properly. Okay, gain something from the time you're putting in to watch these lessons or to read the scriptures. Gain something from it. It says and strength of salvation, the fear of the Lord is his treasure, and those that have it are going to find out just how valuable that treasure is. Let's see. I think I had one more precept. This is the book of Galatians chapter 5, verse 16. And I think the elder brought this out in his lesson as well. Okay, but it says here, this I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. But this is easier said than done, right? In order to walk in the spirit, you got to know how to operate in the spirit. You got to know how to walk in the spirit. This is something you actually learn, because when you leave the world and you get woken up to this truth, you change, you renew your mind, and you learn how to walk in the spirit. That's why, like the Apostle Paul said, be ye followers of me, even as I am of Yahushua. So those that have been walking in the spirit before you will teach you. And you may fall a couple of times, but eventually you'll get the hang of it. And when you're able to do that, you can see that temptations that may have got you before when you first came into the truth, they don't really get you anymore, because you learned how to walk in the spirit and stay in the spirit so you don't fulfill the lust of the flesh. Because guess what? The lust of the flesh is going to get a lot of people killed in the time of Jacob's trouble, the time to come. A lot of people are going to lose their lives, their minds, their wives, their families, all of it, because of the lust of the flesh. Taking the MOTB is going to be due to the lust of the flesh, because you weren't able to walk in the spirit and stay in the spirit, because you never learned how, because you never took this seriously when you had the chance. For the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would. So you're either going to be subject to your flesh or your spirit. One is going to rule over the other. And if you don't learn how to strengthen your spirit and subject your flesh, like the Apostle Paul said, that he makes his members subject, then you're not looking too good. All right, you're not looking too good. Anyway, that's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to go into that. Lord Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. Let me see what we got on here. Prophets of Pasadena, Texas, if I said that right. Isaiah 33:6 in the NIV. He will be the sure foundation of your times, a rich store of salvation and wisdom and knowledge. The fear of the Lord is the key to this treasure. See? And a lot of people are not taking the opportunity to get that key. So when the time comes, you're going to see others opening that treasure and taking from it, and it's benefiting them. But guess what? When you're starving and you're afraid and you don't have faith and you don't know what to do, all the time wasted that you could have been utilizing is going to come back in your head. And you're going to feel like the dumbest idiot on the planet Earth to know that you had open access to the information. You knew what to do. You had the resources to do it. And the only thing stopping you from salvation is your lazy ass didn't want to do it. Or you just rather do something else. Or you just wanted to be a ninja or a scoffer. That is what stops you from eating in the time of Jacob's trouble. That's what stops you from being delivered from the nuclear missiles, because you wanted to be a nigga and not do the right thing when you had the time. And that pain, that regret, that guilt, shit, man, that's going to be something else. Anyway, with that, Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rechak Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.